and welcome to another AQA GCSE 8300 series revision video. This is the June 2017 second paper in the higher tier of the past papers. It is a calculator paper, so we are allowed to use calculators, and we're picking up in question 27. 27a reads, h of x is the cube root of x for all values of x. On the grid, draw the graph of the inverse function y equals, well, the inverse of h of x for -2 up to +2. Okay, so what is the inverse function of the cube root of x? That's a bit like saying, instead of being given a question and finding the answer, you're given the answer and asked to find the question. So what we're looking for is, if you're given the cube root of x, what will give you x? So what have we got to do to the cube root of x to get back to x? Well, we just have to cube it. So the inverse function, so h to the -1 of x, is just equal to x cubed. So if we try to do the points, we can do x and we can do x cubed. So if we start from -2 and then -1, 0, 1 and 2, well, -2 cubed is -2 times -2 times -2, which is -8. -2 times -2 is +4, and +4 times -2 is -8. So -1 times -1 times -1 is just -1, because -1 times -1 is +1, and then +1 times -1 is -1. 0 times 0 times 0, well, that's just 0. 1 times 1 times 1 is just 1, and 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Okay, now I have a great deal of difficulty drawing graphs because, well, for one thing, my hand's not very steady. So this actually took a long time to draw, so I drew this in advance just to give you an idea of what it should look like. But even taking a long time to try and draw it, I'm still not convinced that that's really the best representation. So I've actually also given you Google's drawing, which is much smoother and much nicer. But that gives you an idea of what it should look like. It should be this cubic curve, this nice cubic curve that's horizontal. The gradient is horizontal at 0, and it just gets steeper and steeper and steeper as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so part B says for all values of x, f of x is equal to sine x, g of x is equal to x plus 90. On the grid, draw the graph of the composite function y equals fg of x for 0 degrees up to 360 degrees. Okay, so fg of x, so f of x is sine x, so this is the sine of g of x. So g of x is x plus 90. So that is fg of x. Now, if you know your trigonometry, then you know that that is trigonometrically identical to the cosine of x. But if you didn't know that, that's no big deal. You're just typing in x plus 90 on your calculator when you're trying to find the sine of x. Or you could even just use your unit circle. So if we're plotting x, and we're plotting, we could either draw sine of x plus 90, or we could just do cos x. And so we're starting from 0 degrees, and what's this in? It's going up by 90 degrees, so 90. 90 plus 90 is 180. 180 plus 90 is 270. 270 plus 90 is 360. Okay, so we know from our unit circle the cosine of 0 is 1. The cosine of 90 is 0. The cosine of 180 is -1. The cosine of 270 is 0. And the cosine of 360 is 1. Of course, you can just use your calculator, just make sure they're set to degrees. And again, I have difficulty drawing freehand, so here's my attempt at drawing after I took considerable amount of time to try the drawing. And even then, that's not exactly the best attempt. And this is what Google says it's supposed to be. Don't get confused by the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are in radians. Google works in radians, not degrees. But that just gives you an idea of the shape of what the curve should look like. I mean, you want to finish your curve right here at its highest point, which is 1. So we've got something looking vaguely like that, but more like this. Nice and smooth like this. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. If you're taking your GCSEs this year, I'd like to wish you every success with your revision and every success with your exams, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.